Okay, we'll just take the. Good morning. We will begin this hearing this morning for Assembly Budget Subcommittee number 2 on Education Finance. Today's hearing will focus on a number of issues related to the Department of Education, including some state operations, Prop 47, special schools, charter schools, startup grants, our state after-school program, as well as our school nutrition. The first order of business is we're going to take up Issue 1, a vote-only issue related to some technical and clarifying changes to the K-12 education trailer bill. Oh, first of all, we'll take roll.
McCarty?
Aye. Here.
Chavez?
Here.
Ting? Kim? O'Donnell?
Here. Okay. First order of business, do we have a motion for the vote item number 1? Move. Second? Okay. Motion is second on that item. Please call the roll.
McCarty?
Aye.
Chavez?
No.
Ting? Kim? And O'Donnell?
Aye.
Okay, we'll hold that open for now. With that, we'll proceed with the regular agenda now. First issue item for discussion is California Department of Education state operations. Please come forward.
She's out today.
Yeah. But Ting as the chair can replace anybody. No, but he can replace anybody. He can replace anybody.
Turn this on.
Who was first? Okay, Department of Finance.
Thank you. Good morning. Melissa Ng with the Department of Finance. I'm just going to provide a quick overview of the Department of Education state operations, and I'll move on to the specific augmentations outlined in the agenda. The governor's budget provides a total of approximately $358 million for state operations support for the Department of Education, $54.3 million in general fund, $160.5 million in federal fund, and $26.4 million in other funds, for a total of $241.2 million support approximately 1,570 positions at the Department of Education. Additionally, $50.3 million in general fund, $54.3 million in Proposition 98 general fund, and $12.2 million in other funds, for a total of $116.8 million supports approximately 980 positions at the state special schools. The department is authorized for approximately 2,550 positions. However, based on a 3-year average, the department is expected to only fill 2,250, since they have historically had approximately 300 vacancies, 200 at the Department of Education headquarters, and another 100 vacancies split amongst the 3 state special schools and 3 diagnostic centers. This is part of the reason why the governor's budget provided funding for specified activities, but no new positions. Moving on to the specific governor's budget augmentations, as outlined in the agenda, the governor's budget provides 2-year limited term funding of $318,000 general fund to meet the settlement terms in the DJ versus California lawsuit, $254,000 in 16-17 and $60,000 ongoing general fund for the department to convene an advisory group, develop resource tools to identify language skills progression in children that are deaf and hard of hearing, $207,000 in 16-17 and $140,000 in ongoing general fund to develop guidelines for identifying and educating students with dyslexia and providing technical assistance to LEAs. $54,000 in 16-17 and $81,000 in 17-18 to develop a web-based form to collect data, submit a report to the legislature, and to meet the requirements of the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. A one-time general fund of $30,000 to establish best practices to prevent child abuse, $25,000 in 16-17 and $21,000 ongoing general fund to administer the homeless youth fee waiver program, $194,000 in ongoing federal funds to support additional reviews of agencies participating in the at-risk after-school meals component of the child and adult care food program, and 2-year limited term funding of $100,000 federal funds to coordinate training and provide technical assistance to agencies participating in child and adult care food program. In total, $888,000 in non-Proposition 98 general fund and $294,000 in federal fund, for a total of $1.2 million additional funding is provided for 16-17. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Just want to note that since these issues span several different areas, I'll have my colleagues come up and speak to them if I'm unable to answer for a particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Education.
Thank you. Good morning. Deborah Brown on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson. I would note that in general, we support the increases that the governor is proposing, given that they are to help support new legislation. We would note a couple of additions. Regarding the funding for the DJ versus California settlement, the department has requested 3 consultants pursuant to the agreement that was reached with in that settlement, but the approval given was only for 3 associate governmental program analysts, and so we're requesting the increase as staff is recommended to provide for the 3 consultants. We think that without the increase to have the consultants, it will not be adequate to accomplish what's contemplated by the DJ settlement, which includes review of LEA's explanations for the CalPADS 2.4 data and confirmation of LEA compliance with the EL requirements. We think that the tasks required under the DJ settlement do require an educator with a credential who has the experience working in a school or a district to be able to provide the technical assistance and support that's required under the settlement. Additionally, we would add that we're also in conversations and settlement talks with the U.S. Department of Education, U.S. Department of Justice, and working with them where they are seeking a settlement that provides more technical assistance and more monitoring that's more appropriate for a program consultant versus an analyst. And so we would ask that you support the staff recommendation to fund the funding for the 3 program analysts. We'd also note that we've made some requests for increases that we're hoping will be part of the May revision. So the first would be on the permanent funding for the Instructional Quality Commission. So we've requested $1.15 million for that, and that what that does is having that ongoing funding allows us to better make the updates needed for the frameworks and the instructional materials. In the past, it's been funded on a one-time basis, and that really is hindering the work of the department and the IQC, as it doesn't allow the opportunity to plan for these activities in the future. The development of frameworks is a multi-year timeline, and a timeline guided by regulatory and education code requirements and steps that require IQC input and approval along the way. The adoption of a framework triggers the beginning of the instructional material process, which takes 18 to 24 months for completion. All of these processes span over multiple fiscal years, and without ongoing yearly funding of the IQC, the current instructional materials based on updated standards and instructional practices will not be available for students and teachers in a timely manner. If ongoing funding for the IQC is not restored, projects will be delayed even further, so we're asking for that to be included in the final budget. The other item is for the that we've also sought funding for is for the Assessment Fellows Program, and this would be not quite 1.4 million over 2 years to fund six fellows, and these fellows work with LEAs to provide regional support on the administration of the state assessments, and so they provide timely, customized on-site support in implementing the various assessments. This is particularly important as new assessments are rolling out over the next few years. Facilitation or participation in stakeholder meetings, regional and LEA events to ensure timely and accurate information, and they also provide the department with data analysis and other information from stakeholders, and this provides wide-reaching training and informational resources. And finally, the last item that we're hoping that funding will be provided is to help the development of the new state accountability system. And so the state is undergoing the development of a new system, and so we're seeking funding for 2 positions to fund that work, and that's going to help with an alternative accountability system as well as we're transitioning to the new system. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go on to Ms. Collins, Legislative Analyst Office. Thank you.
Good morning. Natasha Collins with the Legislative Analyst Office. We recommend approval of the governor's proposed augmentations to the CD state operations budget. Thank you.
Very good. It's concise. Any discussion on the dais on this issue? This is a hold open, or we vote on this one? Pardon? We're voting on this one. Do I have a motion for this acceptance? You move? And do you second?
Sure, yes, I second that.
And this is going to be a split vote. What I'd recommend is that we pull out number 1 as modified. So we'll have 2 votes. One will be for 1, and the other one will be for the remainder of it. So if you'd please, we have a motion for the remainder.
I'm not clear on the motion. I'm sorry.
Okay. Right now, we have items 1 through 8. The motion that I asked you to make is 2 through 8, which we'll all be voting for. Number 1, I'm going to be voting against. So that's why I asked to split it out. So if you agree, it's on page number 5.
Okay, I'm sorry. You want to pull out number 8? Is that correct?
We're going to pull number 1 out.
Pull number 1 out.
Yes. And 2 through 8, we'll all vote together, and then number 1 be pulled out. It'll be a split.
So in other words, okay, just pull number 1 out. Okay, yes.
So we'll first take up 2 through 8. So I have a motion from Mr. O'Donnell, a second from Ms. Kim. So go ahead and vote on that one, please. 2 through 8.
McCarty, Chavez,
Aye.
Ting, Kim, O'Donnell,
Okay.
Okay, now we'll have a motion on number 1.
And to clarify, the staff recommendation is to increase by 105,000.
And to,
So I can.
okay, yeah, could you make since this is a fine point we're going to be doing, we're going to go for number 1 and also with the staff recommendation to.
Item 1 plus the staff recommendation for an additional 105,000 general fund for the 3 positions.
Yes. So that's what the chair would like. Would you like to make that
Move.
motion? And Ms. Kim?
I'll second that.
Could you please call the vote, please?
McCarty, Chavez,
No.
Ting, Kim, O'Donnell,
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go on to number 3, academic and behavioral support. And I believe we have Ms. Quasim Barth, Department of Finance. Here she comes. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good. Can you please start?
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Molly Quasabarth with the Department of Finance. I thought the consultant did a great job in the agenda write-up describing the state's recent initiative to help school districts develop comprehensive practices and policies to support the academic, behavioral, and social-emotional needs of all students. It's a pretty nebulous concept to wrap your arms around. The 2015 Budget Act provided $10 million to assist and encourage school districts to put in place multi-tiered systems of support, referred to as MTSS, to give all students access to high-quality, differentiated classroom instruction, focusing on the Common Core standards and incorporated into the district's LCAP accountability plans to provide appropriate levels of individualized instruction and positive behavioral supports and interventions. One of the goals behind MTSS is to address the needs of children with learning problems early on so that they may not need special education services later. The continuous and aligned supports that will be provided by teachers, administrators, behavioral and mental health specialists, and families will reduce the number of discipline referrals and provide much-needed personalized supports for children living in poverty, foster youth, English language learners, and students in the juvenile justice system. CDE recently awarded the $10 million grant to the Orange County Department of Education, who will partner with the Butte County Office of Education and the Swift Center, a professional development and training consortium based at the University of Kansas. The Orange County proposal to scale up the MTSS framework statewide is based on a system of trainer of trainers provided at the state, regional, local, and county levels. The Swift Center will provide much of the initial professional development and training based on their previous experience with establishing statewide MTSS frameworks in 5 states. The Butte County Office of Education will develop and maintain the MTSS website and provide insights on the challenges faced by small and rural LEAs. Orange County plans to award $2.5 million in subgrants to LEAs to support the specific needs of each district in developing or improving an MTSS framework. They plan to provide subgrants to districts located in each of the 57 county offices of education regions. So how is MTSS implemented in the classroom? All students are taught the core academic instruction, known as Tier 1, although the teacher may use different teaching strategies based on the student's individual learning needs. Some students will need supplemental instruction, which would be at the Tier 2 level, and Tier 3 would give more intensive instruction to the few children who are still falling behind. The same approach would apply to providing behavioral supports. All students would be taught to behave according to agreed-upon expectations of common courtesy and respect. Those students with minor or more serious behavior issues would be given additional positive interventions and supports, sometimes on a one-to-one basis, rather than referring them for disciplinary actions such as suspension or expulsion. The governor's budget includes $30 million to build upon Orange County's MTSS project and is intended to go out primarily to LEAs to ensure that all districts have the resources to develop and implement an MTSS framework. Thank you for your interest in this exciting initiative, and I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Deborah Brown on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson. I think it was covered very well by Department of Finance. So we would add that that the Orange County office, that application and their interview received the highest score of all of the 7 applicants, that their application was comprehensive, and they do have a great deal of prior experience, and we look forward to working with them. We are finalizing the grant now and hope the money will go out to the Orange County very soon. Additionally, we also have some resources available for schools and districts on our website that provide information related to these types of support. So including some information regarding frequently asked questions about the types of program and instructions on intervention resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Ryan Anderson, Legislative Analyst's Office. We are recommending that the legislature reject the governor's proposal to increase the grant award by $30 million, and we'd like to highlight 3 specific concerns with that proposal. The first is that this seems like the kind of decision that is most appropriately made at the local level. This is the broader strategy that the state has been taking with education finance in recent years, pushing decisions away from Sacramento and towards local school districts while giving them the unrestricted revenues necessary to achieve local priorities. And we think that strategy applies just as well to this priority as it does to every other priority in K-12. Our second concern is that to the extent that the state does have an interest in advancing these systems of support, we think the original grant award really went a long way towards meeting those. Orange County put together a pretty compelling case for spending the $10 million. Their plan includes a set aside of $2.5 million for subgrants to LEAs. We think at this time it makes sense for the state to step back, evaluate that initial grant amount, see how things are going, and then later more deliberately decide if an additional investment is justified, and if so, what amount makes sense. The third point is just that the specific amount that's on the table we don't think is well justified. There's a little legislative history here. This $30 million was in last year's budget earmarked for services for infants and toddlers with exceptional needs. The Budget Act included language that said that that money was supposed to be allocated according to a method collaboratively decided by the 3 agencies at this table, the Department of Education, the Department of Finance, our office, the LAO. We worked really hard on that over summer and fall, but ultimately weren't able to come to an agreement. That's the reason why the governor has removed that ongoing appropriation in his current budget proposal, and why this $30 million is available for this purpose. Again, we think that it would make sense for the state to step back, review the a performance of that initial grant amount and then make a more determined decision about are additional dollars justified, and if so, what amount, and instead of just saying that there happens to be $30 million available at this time. That's all.
Thank you. Any further comment from the panel? Seeing no comment, is there any public comment on this item?
Mr. Chair, member, staff, Brad Strong with Children Now. We're very supportive of the additional $30 million. We think that it's a necessary and frankly modest investment for the level of activities that need to occur to change the practices and culture in our schools. Last year, the $10 million we thought was really a kind of a start of the establishing of a MTSS frameworks that could be implemented in all districts throughout the state. We think that this language really needs to provide additional dollars to the districts to provide the research-based practices to reduce suspensions, expulsions, and improve school climate. The coalition we work with, the Fixed School Discipline Coalition, and dozens of partners, the Black Parallel School Board, California Alliance for African American Educators Association, Our Family Coalition, so, a number of Dolores Huerte Foundation have submitted a letter as well as some trailer bill language that we hope that the committee will consider, and that these dollars really get to the districts to implement and do the professional development that the teachers and all staff, not just the teachers, it's administrators, it's school employees, the custodians throughout the school need the training and support to implement positive behavior supports and restorative justice practices. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just ask maybe a question of the Department of Education. So these dollars are designed to create a I don't want to say discipline system, but the idea is we would create some models and then they would go down to the locals. Orange County would maybe some free whomever may comment. So what are we doing here? Explain to me, because I thought this was only for special needs. It's not. If I look at the document here, it kind of says a lot about special needs, but maybe not.
So no, it's really supposed to address all students. So the idea is that all students are kind of be taught the basic core instruction, and then there are always going to be some kids that need additional help, whether it's behavioral, academic, whatever. And instead of separating them out and sending them out to outside counselors or whatever, the teacher can kind of provide this tier 2 mostly in the classroom. And then if they're stronger needs, kids are really falling behind, then there's usually going to be some kind of specialist or whatever that'll come in and support. But the idea is, especially I think with the behavioral supports, that usually the teachers and the counselors or whatnot don't work together. And so the school has a team of supporters for these students. So it's for students that are high achievers and, but the idea is that students are struggling.
So struggling academically or socially, and I would argue that in any school, they're working together if they have good leadership and they're doing what's right. I know that they need a grant to do that. I mean, that's common sense to me. But what you're saying is that it's not happening everywhere, and somehow this program will get us there?
Well, I don't think it's happening, and I think...
Well, it is happening in a lot of places. I mean, I've done it. So...
Well, and there certainly are...
I mean, it's common sense to me, but I'm struggling. What are we doing with this money?
So there certainly are some MTS frameworks that certain districts have established, and they've shown really great outcomes. So I think the idea of this $10 million is for Orange County and its partners to develop the resources, look at the best practices, and start providing development and trainings first to the regional leaders, and then it'll kind of disseminate down, and they'll work with the county offices and the LEAs. But there's a lot of support that needs to be developed to get school administrators to be working with the teachers. The teachers need to learn.
I mean, I guess I'm just struggling with that's like common sense. You have a kid that's struggling academically or socially. I hope it would be a teacher would be proactive in attempting to address that. whether individually with a student, and if that doesn't work, like a level 1 response, then you bring the counselor in, and you rise up the ladder from there. I guess so what is this whole thing supposed to do?
I think let me give an example for a child having behavioral problems. Typically, if a child's acting out in a classroom, the teacher doesn't have the resources to deal with that child, so they're usually...
If it's ongoing, you address it individually, then you maybe escalate, bring a counselor, then maybe a parent conference, right? That type of thing.
But I think, so at the beginning of the year, each child is assessed, and they look at their needs, and then they kind of see how they progress through the year.
Each child's are we talking special needs here?
No.
So where would
you say assessed?
In this money, there's a lot of money here, and I'm kind of confused where it's going.
So, sure.
Hi, I'm Carrie Roberts. I'm from the California Department of Education, Director of the Professional Learning Support Division. This MTSS is a little bit more than that because although, as you know, we have a lot of teachers, counselors ready to handle things when they happen. But what isn't happening is it's not coordinated. We're talking about a system of supports where the counselors, teachers, the administrators, everyone in the school understands the system and works together. And although it's happening in many places across the state, it's not happening in all places, and I'll even venture to say it's not happening in those places that have more students or the most students that really need this a system of supports where it's coordinated and everybody is speaking the same language and everyone knows what everyone else is doing. So I think it's more of that infrastructure where we can support students in a coordinated way, and it's not just the counselor doing this, the teacher doing this. It's that idea of an infrastructure that's coordinated.
Okay. I don't think it takes $30 million to do that. I got to be honest, that's shocking to me. I mean, it's like common sense. I mean, you could put it on a piece of paper, build a chart, okay, level 1 response, level 2 response, level 3 response. Why would you need $30 million to do that?